1 minute to air. The live stream has started. Thirty seconds. Now.
Good evening to the city of Durham. We would like to call the Durham City Council meeting to order for this, the 7th day of March 2022 at 7 p.m. We certainly want to welcome everybody back into City Council chambers this evening. We are here, we are here, we are here. And we want to welcome those who are joining us remotely as well. We're going to wait for our fellow council colleague to join us who was stuck in traffic. And then we will have a moment of silence once he's seated. We just also want to recognize Councilman Reece and ask that you reflect on his time of service here during our moment of silence.
Talking to me?
Yes, we're gonna reflect on all of the good things that you have done, will do, and will do. We will have a moment of silence, meditation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask Councilman Reece to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mayor O'Neill. Good evening, colleagues, city staff, the very few members of the public who are here, including my family, and those of you watching at home. If it is your practice to do so, and if you're able, please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mayor O'Neill.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you will call, please call our roll.
Mayor O'Neill,
I am here.
Mayor Pro Tem Middleton,
I'm here.
Councilmember Caballero,
Here.
Councilmember Freeman,
Present.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Reece,
Right here.
and Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
Here, finally.
We do have a couple of ceremonial items. I will be reading the first one, and then Councilman Johnson will read the second.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, man, but you hold on for just a second. We can't hear you. If we can make sure our mic is on.
There's no. She has to do it
Okay, I think they have to turn it on in the back. Is it on now? All right, thank you so much. Let's start from the beginning. This is in honor of one of my mentors, Senator Jeanne Hopkins Lucas, a proclamation. Whereas Senator Jeanne Hopkins Lucas, a native of Durham, was born on Christmas Day, December 25th, 1935, to the late Robert and Bertha Hopkins. And whereas Senator Hopkins Lucas attended East End Elementary, now Eastway, Whittier Junior High, and Hillside High School. She earned her undergraduate with a double major and graduate degrees from North Carolina Central University. And whereas Senator Hopkins Lucas was joined and supported in her life endeavors by her husband of 47 years, William Bill Lucas. And whereas from 1957 to 1975, Senator Hopkins Lucas was a classroom teacher at Hillside and was recognized as an outstanding educator and recipient of the Durham City Teacher of the Year in 1974. In 1977, Durham City Schools employed her as director of the Staff Development Center, and she became director of Personnel Staff Development when the city and county schools merged in 1991. She served as director of School Community Relations in 1992 and retired from Durham Public Schools in 1993. And whereas in 1993, Senator Hopkins Lucas became the first African-American female to serve in the North Carolina Senate, representing Durham, Granville, Person, and Wake counties, and was elected for 7 consecutive terms. In 2003, she was the first African-American ever elected as the Senate Majority Whip. And whereas she took the lead in the General Assembly on issues related to children, the elderly, mentally and physically challenged, HIV/AIDS patients, health insurance for low-income residents, education, economic funding for minority and women-owned businesses, the environment, and juvenile justice reform. Senator Hopkins Lucas was instrumental in securing more than $15 million to aid in the construction of a new education building on the North Carolina Central University campus. And whereas Senator Hopkins Lucas was an active member of the North Carolina Legislative Black Caucus, where she co-chaired the caucus's annual conferences and served as secretary. She also served as secretary for the State Democratic Caucus, and whereas Senator Hopkins Lucas won the respect of her colleagues and became affectionately referred to by members of the Senate as Queen Jeanne, and whereas she was a member of the Durham Committee on Affairs of Black People, the Durham Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, the Durham Chapter of the Lynx Incorporated, and a lifetime member of the NAACP, just to name a few. And whereas Senator Hopkins Lucas was a member of Mount Gilead Baptist Church and served as secretary of the trustee board, chair of the budget committee, member and president of the mass and gospel choirs, and Sunday school teacher. Now, therefore, I, Elaine M. O'Neill, mayor of the city of Durham, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim March 24th, 2022 as Senator Jeanne Hopkins Lucas Day in Durham, and hereby honor the memory of my great friend, my mentor, Senator Jeanne Hopkins Lucas, for being a great leader and a woman with great compassion who loved God and her family. Witness my hand this, the 7th day of March 2022, Elaine M. O'Neill, Mayor of Durham. God bless her memory. I believe her sister is here, who is also one of my mentors. I actually worked with her at Duke University. and we affectionately call her Bernie. If she's there, Bernie, I won't mispronounce your name again. But if
Good
you would
evening,
say your
Mayor.
name, thank you so much for being here.
Good evening, Mayor. The Honorable Mayor Elaine O'Neill, esteemed City Council members, distinguished elected officials, prominent clergy, and all citizens of Durham and beyond. It brings me, Bernadette Hopkins, David Yarumo, great pleasure and an abundance of joy to accept this proclamation naming March 24th a day of recognition for my sister, the late State Senator Jeanne Hopkins Lucas. Her family is excited and overjoyed to hear your decision to bestow our Jeanne with such an awesome tribute of high honor. My sister was a woman of the people. By your actions today, you have assured us that her legacy will live on forever. Please know that our family is elated and have sent you loads of praise and love for making this proclamation a reality. Our Jeanne must be smiling and grinning in satisfaction. Because of this honor, her work for Durham will live on eternally. We, her family, thank you, thank you, thank you with our blessings.
Thank you so
Recording
much.
in progress.
Thank you so much. And no, it was not by error that I pronounced her name Jeannie. That's what we all called her, but her family called her Jeanne, which is the correct pronunciation. We're so glad, Bernie, to do this in honor of her memory.
Madam Mayor, would you like me to proceed? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I've read a lot of proclamations, and this is the one I have to say is going to be in my top most exciting proclamations of my council career, in honor of my friend and colleague, Charlie Reece, who informs me that it's been 2,281 days since we were sworn in to the Durham City Council.
Not that I'm counting.
He's never counting. And I'm excited to read this proclamation for Charlie Reece Day. Whereas Councilmember Charlie Reece was first elected as an at-large Durham City Council member in 2015, and whereas before and during his time serving on City Council, he worked as general counsel for Roe Incorporated, and whereas his constituents know him as a strong supporter of education, clean air and water, improved transportation alternatives, and development that considers the needs of all residents. And whereas he has served on the City Council's procedures, legislative, and Northeast Central Durham subcommittees, he's also served with the Durham Chapel Hill Carborough Metropolitan Planning Organization and Sister Cities of Durham. And whereas while on City Council, he engaged with many Durham residents by answering emails and involving city staff to make sure resident concerns were heard and questions were answered. And whereas he has sought to know Durham fully by visiting every public park, riding every Go Durham bus route, biking or running every mile of trail in the city, picking up roadside trash on Durham streets, and walking every property that has come before the council for annexation or rezoning. And whereas Councilmember Reece has been a dedicated and constant advocate for Durham and its residents. And whereas the City of Durham has benefited greatly from Councilmember Reece's contributions. Now, therefore, I, Elaine M. O'Neill, Mayor of the City of Durham, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim March 7, 2022 as Charlie Reece Day in Durham, and do hereby commend its observance to all residents of our city. Now you have to come get this big plaque. Lovely.
Okay, thanks. Am I supposed to say something?
I mean, you could. Great.
I don't feel like waiting. Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Thank you, Mayor O'Neill. I never in my entire life dreamed there would be a Charlie Reece Day, especially not in this city we all love. I was looking back on some remarks I made at my swearing in 2015, 5 minutes after Jillian. And I was looking at some remarks I made in 2019 when I was sworn in for the second time, again, 5 minutes after Jillian. And I closed both remarks the same way, and so I thought I would share that with you tonight. Both times I wanted to lay out what I thought the council's work should be when business comes before us. And I think now it'll be about how I think y'all ought to go about your business in the months and years ahead. When we see something going right in Durham, let's please celebrate that and build on the successes we have right here at home. When we see something broken in Durham, please fix that. Use what's right about Durham to fix what's wrong about Durham. And in all of our conversations around public policy, please, please center the experiences and voices of Durham's working families. They won't be here for those conversations. That's how we build true progress in the city. That's how we build a city for all. And I have every confidence, I know in my heart, that y'all can do that and that you will do that. The only other thing I wanted to say is I wanted to thank my family. My wife, Dr. Laura Helms Reece, my older child, Rose, and my younger child, Gwen. Without them, I would not have been able to do this job. As I said when I announced my resignation 2 weeks ago, our family has conformed our life in such a way that I could do this ridiculous, impossible, incomparable job. And so I just want to thank you guys for your support over the years. Thanks for knocking so many doors with me. Thanks for not minding when I had to miss dinners and putting you to bed. But I guarantee you over the next couple of years, you're going to get more of that than you probably want. So anyway, just thank you all so much. This has been the most rewarding experience of my life in the public sphere. It's the best job I've ever had. And I'm just really lucky to have done it. So thank you very much. And I can't believe it's Charlie Reece Day. That's bizarre. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Let's get back to business.
I do want to open the period of announcements with opportunities for our colleagues to speak and tell about their experiences of Charlie Reece on this great day. I'll start that off as one of the people who came into this venue last. So I want those who know you best, that they'll be the last voices that you hear. So I thank you. I thank you, Councilman Reece. You've been a kind man. I'll tell you, my sister Eunice Sanders, I was introduced to you by my sister Eunice Sanders, who is the executive director, I believe, of Crayons to Calculators, which is the nonprofit organization that Mayor Steve Schewel started in order to give supplies to our public school teachers. And she talked about how kind you were and how you worked really hard in that space. And so I just want you to know that you have fans that you probably don't even know about, who have watched you and watched your real work out there on those streets of Durham, and who speak of you highly and about you. And that's how I was introduced to you through her, and I've learned that that is true. And so when I got into this new role, you welcomed me. You even brought me mask to my door. And so I just hope this is a tentative so long. And you'll be back with your beautiful wife, your beautiful daughters that I met at the Christmas parade, in those beautiful outfits you all had on that day. You're a man to be reckoned with in a good way. You do Durham proud. And I'm proud to call you colleague, and I'm proud to call you friend. Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you, Mayor O'Neill.
Mayor, may I? Councilman Reece, I'm still a little bothered that you're leaving so soon now that I get on here, but I understand, Dr. Reece, I understand. So I have tried to get as much time with you as our schedules would allow. Promising I'm going to call you and not getting to it, but at least I sent a text, hey, I'm going to call you, stealing some of your ideas, going across every park in the city, getting ready to kick that off. That was inspired by you. To walking 2.5 hours through the woods with residents to see in person what we see on paper. And, if anyone was to ever have an idea of what it's like or what it should be like to serve the people, you've laid out a grand template for that. And you leave that to no question, and I am so appreciative of that. And I appreciate knowing that just because you're stepping away temporarily, that your line of communication is still open, and I do plan to bother you. So for the time to come, I wish you all well, and I will see you. I will be in the UK here and there, so I'm sure I'll reach out when you're there. Be well. And in my wife's language, they say, "Hamba kushle." Go well and be strong.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams.
Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought about what I would say tonight, and I'll just tell you what happened today. Today, on his last day in office, when no one would have been mad at him for just packing boxes or kicking back or just, using the City Hall Wi-Fi for a little while longer, he was working. He sat next to me at the fire department's graduation ceremony, class 32. We sat next to each other as we celebrated 22 new firefighters. He didn't have to be there, but he was there. And then he left there and went to do more constituent relations. On his last day, working up until the last minute. What better exclamation point can you have on his time with us than that? That he went hard up until the last minute and went down shooting. You've set the bar high, my friend. As we say in my tradition, we won't end with a period or an exclamation point, just a comma. ... This is to be continued in just different arenas and different places. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless and protect your family. May your success embarrass your expectations. On behalf of the people of Ward 2, on behalf of a grateful city, on behalf of me, thank you, thank you, thank you. Europe doesn't know what it's getting into, so we'll check on them from time to time. But Durham loves you, and your words that I love so much: Durham today, Durham tomorrow, Durham forever. Go well, my friend.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton.
Councilwoman Freeman?
Thank you. And I'd like to say of the 2,283 days that you've served on council, I've had the pleasure of serving 1,554 of them with you. I think, and if I could calculate the exact number of hours, I think it's 14 hours and, I'm doing math, 54 minutes I can't count the seconds. But yes, you get the idea. And I think that that is what sticks out for me the most, is just how meticulous you've been about every single case that's come before us. And I respect the work that you do. I respect the way that you've been so committed to every resident in this community, and I wish you all the best. I would say that all of the time that I've served on this council, I've learned so much from your work, and not just your work, but your kind notes and letters and thank you cards and gifts. And I will definitely miss the gifts. I will say that when you first called, I was kind of like, I don't understand what the hesitation was, but I do, and that I understand that service comes first for you, and it will always come first for you. And I appreciate your family's sacrifice, just knowing, I know my family's sacrificed, and you guys are the greatest. I can't say enough about your wife and your daughters. They are growing up to be really lovely young women, and I know that they'll enjoy Paris. So Adriana's already jealous, but I've told her we will go. But yes, there's not enough time to like gather all of the ways in which, I guess, like the way that you work through the issues. When I first got on council, I can remember I think there was an issue around the taxes that what came up and how to work through it. And you were like on it, you're like, call this person, let's get this sit down meeting. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. Hey, let's talk to some folks about getting engaged, but you're just always ready, and I appreciate that. So, gonna miss you, and again, I wish you all the best. If there's anything I can do, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. I appreciate that.
Councilwoman Caballero.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So tonight we say goodbye to Councilmember Reece in his official capacity as a Durham City Council member. Charlie has become a close friend over the years, and I'm going to miss him a lot. He's been an excellent and dedicated council member since he was first elected in 2015. And I've learned a ton from him. And I've also enjoyed watching folks squirm a little bit when he decides to go into former prosecutor mode, something he graciously doesn't do often. He's done so much work behind the scenes for so many residents in Durham, quietly picking up trash at bus stations, meeting families at their homes when they faced evictions, lightly trespassing all over Durham to really dig in to our rezoning cases. And we could all go on and on about the tremendous, incredible work that you've done for so many folks in the city. But I want to end on the kind of friend that you are. And you have been there for me since day one. You have been there for me since you barely knew me, when I was a brand new council member, very much a deer caught in the headlights. And you listened to me, and you were generous, and you were genuine. And you helped me understand the burden and responsibilities of what does it mean to actually have this job, and what does it mean to actually help make decisions for 300,000 people. So I'm gonna miss you, compañero. I know you're not living forever, and I am not at all surprised that you are following your badass wife on this next adventure, because that shows exactly the kind of person, husband, and human you are. Te agradezco. Thank you. So grateful.
Thank you, Councilmember Caballero.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you. I was instructed to keep this short. So I'm just going to tell a little story about the first time that I met Charlie. So in early 2015, when, in the run-up to the election, there's always, in the run-up to the election, the rumors start flying, who's going to run for re-election, who's going to, who's not running for their seat again, how many seats are going to be open. And so the rumors started flying around Durham about there being an open seat on the Durham City Council. And a couple of people were talking to me about whether I would be interested in running. And so I was trying to decide whether or not to run. And through the rumor mill, we hear this name, Charlie Reece. Charlie Reece is thinking about running for city council. And so we were like, well, let's meet with Charlie Reece and let's see if instead of running for city council, I can convince Charlie Reece to support me to run for city council. So I show up to this meeting at Bonds with like 3 pages of notes about how I'm going to convince Charlie to not run for council and support me instead. And we sit down at Bonds, and I'm like super nervous. And after I get through maybe, 15% of my arguments, Charlie says, stop, you don't have to say any more. I'm not going to run for city council. I'm going to support you, and I'm going to throw you a house party. Just let me know what you need. And then, of course, as the election cycle progressed, we found out that there were going to actually be 2 folks who weren't going to run for reelection. And I was so excited to be able to have Charlie join me on the campaign trail and to be elected together and sworn in together. But I think this story just, again, illustrates the kind of person you are, that for a random stranger you had never met in your life, after very little conversation, you would put aside the work that you were excited to do and instead support somebody else to do that work. And you have had my back every moment of every day from that day forward. And we're gonna miss you, but I'm not worried because I'm still gonna see you all the time. Once you get back from Paris, I might even actually visit you there. If I can't convince you to put me in your luggage when you leave, I will have to go visit. But we're gonna miss you doing this job, and really appreciate all of the friendship and support and being able to work with you for the last 6 years. And I love you.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson.
I'd now like to recognize our city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is my privilege this evening to, on behalf of the 2,600 plus city employees that we have in the city of Durham government, to say thank you, Mr. Reece, for your service from everyone. You have kept us on our toes. You keep us making sure that we are able to respond to any kind of question, from the smallest question to the biggest one. You get it to us and we get you back an answer. And certainly tonight, I want to personally say thank you for all of the support, the confidence in me, the friendship that you provided to me, and encouragement that you've shown to me over the years. I will never forget it. I will really miss working with you day to day, and I'm really excited for your family as you embark on your new stage of life in Paris. Tonight, I will say farewell. Before I said I would not, but tonight I will. But in Charlie Reece style, not quite this moment, because you do have 4 more hours to serve our great city as a council member. So until that time expires, we'll keep working. And I say best wishes to you and your wonderful family.
Thank you, City Manager Page. I appreciate that.
Attorney Don O'Toole from the City Attorney's Office.
Councilmember Reece. So I have to say, Councilmember Caballero's prosecutor wording, as a city staff person and attorney for the city, I think I've been on the receiving end of that a couple of times. And the first time you experience that, it's a little shocking. But I just want you to know that we understand why you do that. And I really think your intelligence, your legal background, all of the experience that you've brought to this job, I think it's really great that you and the other council members really challenge us and just sort of the established norms and what really is possible. And so I just want you to know that at times I didn't love the prosecutorial questioning, but I want you to know how much I appreciate it. And I do think that you made all of the city staff do their jobs better and more thoroughly. And thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you, Don. I just want to let folks know that the first time I met Don O'Toole, I was knocking doors in his neighborhood in the fall of 2015. He was walking his dog with his wife and approached me and gave me a little cross-examination, I must say, about some loose language in one of my flyers about what the city could and could not do legally. So I just like to think I was paying it forward a little bit from that first meeting. But the good news is you won't have to endure that from me ever again. Congratulations.
I now recognize our city clerk, Diana Schreiber.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Councilmember Reece. This is our last meeting together, and as in the best fashion of the city clerk, I want to keep it short and sweet. I want to wish you and your family all the best as you go off for your Parisian adventure. We hope that you keep in touch with our Durham, our city, and I wish you all the best. So thank you.
Thank you, City Clerk Schreiber. We done now?
Thank you all for your wonderful remarks. On Charlie Reece Day, another round of applause. Woo! Yes. And now, as Charlie would say, Councilman Reece would say, we're now about the people's business, and we will turn to our announcements by council. I did have a request from Councilwoman Johnson that we turn our attention first to item number 3 on our consent agenda, which is adopt a resolution in support of the Declaration of Fundamental Reproductive Freedoms. We have a speaker here, Ms. Tara Romano, who we would like to have her speak first, unless someone else has any objections.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, she's on the Zoom.
All right. And we're ready for her. And I believe she is on Zoom. Ms. Tara Romano.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me to speak at this meeting. My name is Tara Romano, and I am the Executive Director of Pro-Choice North Carolina. It's no surprise that the city of Durham is considering passing a resolution in Declaration of Fundamental Reproductive Freedoms. The city of Durham is among just 4 local governments in North Carolina and approximately 24 localities around the country that have passed resolutions calling for an end to the unjust and anti-abortion federal Hyde Amendment. This resolution is also a welcome action as we witness the most intense attacks on abortion access at the federal and state level in nearly 5 decades. Reproductive freedom, including safe and affordable access to abortion, contraception, pre- and postnatal care, and comprehensive and accurate sex education, is a necessary and critical freedom that too many politicians are eager to trade away in exchange for political power. With the U.S. Supreme Court seemingly ready to overturn nearly 50 years of legal precedent in order to recriminalize abortion, and states like Texas openly defying federal constitutional rights to ban abortion, and lawmakers here in North Carolina continuing to stigmatize and erode access to all sexual and reproductive health care, we need local governments to take a stand for these fundamental freedoms. Whether it's ensuring safety at abortion and reproductive health care clinics, finding innovative ways to expand access to affordable, quality, reproductive and sexual health care, ensuring youth have the tools they need to assert their bodily autonomy, or creating tangible and material support and policies for people making their own reproductive health care decisions, there are numerous ways local governments can step in where our state and federal governments have fallen short. We applaud the City of Durham's proactive efforts to assure its residents that their local elected officials are committed to the values of reproductive freedom. Restrictions on abortion, just as restrictions on all healthcare, impact Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities more acutely and disproportionately. Unnecessary and political restrictions force these communities and people with low incomes, rural communities, young people, immigrant communities, LGBTQ people, and those with disabilities to bear unjust burdens as they try to access care that is critical to their health, safety, well-being, and economic security. As reproductive oppression occurs at many intersections, we know that abortion access is not the only target and that we must remain vigilant in facing these escalating oppressions. We applaud the City of Durham for considering this proactive approach to reproductive freedom. We encourage the city to adopt this resolution, the first of its kind in North Carolina, and to build on the city's history of championing human rights and equality for all, and to stand as a leader for other local governments to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Romano. We're going to quickly move through our announcements, and then we'll get to our priority items. We want to have Councilman Reece with us for as long as possible tonight. So I'm going to have you here for a little while longer. All right, are there any other announcements from council? All right, Councilwoman Caballero.
Yes, good evening, everyone. This will be a little bit long, so I ask for some indulgence and forgiveness. First, I want to thank my colleagues for my excused absences for the last several meetings. I've never missed that many meetings since joining council in January 2018. And I want to talk a little bit about where I've been and what I've been doing. So I had the unique privilege of traveling to Chile, South America, which is my tierra natal, where I was born, with a fellowship sponsored by Mi Gente, a political Latino organization. And I stayed a little bit longer so I could actually see family, some of whom I hadn't seen since 2008. The 2 weeks since I've been gone, since I've been gone from the Bull City, I arrived this morning after an overnight flight, so I'm quite tired. Much has changed. A dear colleague and friend has resigned. A war has broken out. And folks have been talking about nuclear weapons being used, something that hasn't, a conversation that hasn't resurfaced after many, many decades of diminished concern. We have new maps, and many amazing people have filed to run for office. And last but not least, UNC beat Duke at Cameron Stadium for Coach K's last home game. And while I'm not a hardcore UNC fan, I certainly relished seeing all the trash talk. So I went to Chile to meet with current elected and movement leaders during an absolutely amazing time in Chilean history. They're in the middle of rewriting their constitution. And many, many folks are all over the world are watching what is politically unfolding there. And they're about to change a lot of how their systems are organized and how they work. Many Chileans are terribly afraid, including some of my own family, of what may come next. But what I actually saw and what I actually observed was an overwhelming amount of regular folks, regular people saying they'd had enough with a system that was deeply unjust for them, and where many, many people are living in deeply precarious economic situations, not dissimilar to what we see here. And many of the concerns that folks shared sounded all too familiar. The cost of living was too high, wages were too low, and for too long, most folks in political power were in power to serve the many, but the elite. And the process that they're undertaking in Chile is profound and hard, and they're doing it through the very messy challenge of democracy. And that commitment to democracy is something that we're also seeing unfold in the Ukraine, which is also defending democracy. And I'm marveling at the resistance and the resiliency of so many regular people standing up to injustice in this moment. And so I come back renewed, recharged, and with a greater purpose to always working towards a better and more just world. And I very much appreciate the time that I was given by my colleagues to do that incredible work. I look forward to having more conversations about my experiences there.
Thank you so much. I look forward to those conversations. Are there any additional announcements from my other colleagues?
Madam Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very quickly, I just want to express my gratefulness to a couple of people, well, a bunch of people actually, this evening. On Friday, I was involved in a pretty serious car accident in which some individuals were injured. A motorist T-boned another car which spun into my lane in front of me, and I struck that vehicle. Firstly, I want to say how grateful I am that those that were injured are coming along, doing well. I've talked to each of them, and I want to thank I'm very thankful for preservation this evening, but I do want to just acknowledge our first responders, our firefighters, our emergency medical technicians, and our police department who responded and immediately began seeing to folk that were there and that were injured, their professionalism. And I observed this before they knew who I was. Their professionalism and their seriousness and the quickness with which they started tending and seeing about people. I just want to, I've already expressed my thanks to Chief Zoldos, the fire department, Chief Andrews as well, for the police department. And I want to send a shout out to our friends at the county as well for our emergency medical responders. Just very grateful that it wasn't worse than it was, but you know, when you sit at this desk and kind of pass policies that affect those departments, you don't ever think about what it's like on the receiving end sometimes, to actually be a client, if you will. And it was really gratifying for me to see what we do here kind of in the abstract actually manifest itself in real time in real people's lives. So I just want to send an extra shout out again tonight to our first responders of the fire department, our police department, and our emergency medical technicians as well, to our emergency call takers as well, and our 911 center, and all Durham employees tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Reece.
Thank you, Mayor Neal. It's going to sound a little odd after all this, but I wanted to remind folks that next week is Creek Week here in Durham, March 12th through the 19th. This is a week that happens every year. We're ordinary folks, just like you and me, get our hands dirty and our feet wet, making sure that our creeks and waterways in Durham are kept clean. Yesterday, I had the privilege of spending about 2.5 hours planting trees, shoveling mulch, and smoothing out compost out at Southern High School with a large group, about 30 volunteers with Keep Durham Beautiful. They had two, I think it was Public Works trucks, may have been General Services. Anyway, they had two trucks that the city very kindly allowed them to use to tote stuff around. It was a fantastic experience. I plan to go back, by the way, in 10 years. They said, put a calendar reminder for 10 years from now to go back and take a look at your tree. So I plan to do that. I hope my other volunteer, Rick, also does the same, because I don't know his last name, and that's the only way I'll get to see him again is if we meet in 10 years. But that's neither here nor there. The Creek Week is a great way to volunteer. Like I said, get your hands dirty, get your feet wet, make our green spaces a little greener. Folks can go to www.durhamcreekweek.org and look at all the exciting volunteer opportunities. I know Councilmember Caballero has already been there. She told me she was checking out some of the volunteer opportunities. I know probably drag your kids to that too. They would absolutely love that. Anyway, encourage everyone who is hearing me now to sign up and do that. There's nobody too fancy and too grand that can't help keep Durham beautiful. So that's my last announcement, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Reece. Are there any other announcements? Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Reece, for reminding me to make an announcement. I unfortunately won't be here for the beginning of Creek Week, being away for the National League of Cities Congressional Conference in D.C., but I'm going to hope that I can catch the tail end of it and get my hands and feet dirty towards the end of the week. But I just want to let folks know that I believe myself, Councilmember Middleton, and Councilmember Williams will be attending on behalf of the city. So you'll have great representation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending for us. I will be traveling at the end of the month to Florida, so to make sure we have things covered as a part of a transportation group that will be visiting Fort Lauderdale. Any other announcements? Councilman Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'll be in the mayor's suitcase at the end of the month to make sure she's okay. It's a big suitcase down in South Florida. I just wanted to talk about this briefly. We are back in person tonight, and gosh, I miss you guys in person. I really, really, really do. And we are also, today marked a day that was quite contentious across the city, relieving the mask mandate. And I just want to say that, one, I I personally, appreciate us moving forward on that, but I also wanted to state, just based on our conversations, that this is not to say COVID is over. This is not to say the pandemic is over. It's to say that the mandate is now no longer here necessarily, but you can optionally wear your mask still, and we all have our masks on, and that we still want to now evolve to the point of mitigating safety. And as promised, I've been communicating with quite a few small business owners and other folks throughout the community, and I promised that I would share some of the top ideas and put it on the public record that folks are talking, and they're not just saying, hey, move the mask out of my way, but more so create space for us to determine how we move forward safe and responsibly. The top 3 ideas were: 1, making masks optional; 2, some folks are interested in having protected hours in their businesses for immunocompromised community members. Another is, seeking support financially for better ventilation systems. And finally, a color-coded community response plan, whereas code red means new variant and there are specific instructions to follow, and all code yellow to orange to all the way to code green, where we're totally in the clear. But each color would communicate basically how we respond at that time. And I really was attracted to that idea because we did start experiencing some folks revolting, and folks like me in my restaurant capacity having to police masks at the door was really, really hard. I didn't have any problems because I'm 6'5", 280 pounds. But there are others that are not so big. And so I just wanted to say that now we're in a space where we can truly evolve our conversation around how we respond to COVID and this pandemic, and that Durham is still playing it safe, and Durham is still doing it right. And I appreciate the leadership of you, Mayor O'Neill, and Chair Howerton, and all of the folks in Durham. We hear you, and we'll always create a platform for all voices to be heard. This is not to shut anyone down. This is to make sure that we are all listening to everyone, and we make the best decision moving forward. So thank you for this time, and thank you for this leadership.
Thank you, Councilman Williams. Are there any other announcements? If not, I will conclude with a couple myself. I do want to reassure all of Durham County that we are doing our best to listen to everyone and making decisions based on the science. I was at Duke University today. I also talked with Chairwoman Brenda Howerton. We talk almost on a daily basis. And so we are still very much recognizing that we are not in the endemic stage of the pandemic, but we are still in the pandemic stage. But we are, like I said, we're putting our big toe out there to test the waters. And we will be constantly monitoring the temperature. So rest assured that we're still very much on the job and engaged with our public health and other health officials in this matter. To that end, I also want to take a moment to reassure in another capacity my work in helping to solve the issues around violence. I have been hard at work since, for 24 years actually, in one capacity to another. But in this capacity, I have been working very hard in the city for the last 4 or 5 months in an effort to broker a ceasefire agreement with some of our residents, and also to engage them into new levels of conversation that they have not had the opportunity to have with public officials. Because of my capacity as a judge, a lot of these young people I know in different arenas, and because I am from Durham. And there are few people who can speak into this space, but I do believe that I'm somewhat uniquely qualified because of that background to go into arenas that others may not be able to navigate and negotiate. However, it is a very fragile situation, and oftentimes it can be dangerous for those who are involved. So I will not be pressed until the timing is right to bring forth the works that we have been doing and continue to do. But I do have two announcements tonight. Chair Howerton and I, as I indicated, we have been speaking pretty much every day, every other day, and we are reconvening the Durham Crime Cabinet, which will meet on March 11th. We will be meeting again, and we have sent out invitations to folk who were joining us. It will look a little different because we will have those, as you've often heard me say, those closest to the pain will be closest to the power. So we're going to have different individuals as well as those who have been involved back in that space. We are also going to convene a task force that will take a systems approach, and we've already started that in dealing with some of the issues because they're all interrelated. You know, housing, affordability, crime, all of those are related, and the systems that interact. We'll be convening that, and we will hope that that task force will have a report due prior to my state of the city address. We've already identified a date for that, which I will not say tonight because I do need to make sure that the task force will be ready so that I can, along with Chair Howerton, we can really unveil to you what we have been doing. But suffice it to say that we are working. There's not been 1 week that I have not put in more than 10 hours on this particular effort. But it's well worth it, but I will not be the one to act like it's just me alone. There's a group of people who are involved, and it is, as I said, very delicate, tight, almost like walking on a tightrope to navigate these spaces. So I ask and I appreciate your patience. You have known me for 24 years as a public servant. I have not changed. I am still the same person who has worked really hard to make sure that I serve our community well, and I will ask your indulgence at this time to make sure that I do not get ahead of the work that has been done by so many and for so long. And that will conclude our announcements. I now would turn to our next order of business, our first order of business, our priority items. And I will now recognize our city manager to see if she has any priority items.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. And members of the Durham City Council, I do have two priority items for you this evening. Agenda item number 7, professional services contract award to Schneibel Engineering South, professional corporation for Little River Dam embankment, settlement, and seepage improvements. Attachment number 2 was updated to clarify terminology to include changing the document name from a contract to an agreement. However, there are no changes to the terms of this agreement. And finally, agenda item number 13, the 2021 fourth quarter crime report. Pursuant to council's request, additional information related to data on the psychological verification or criminology of violent crime has been provided in attachment number 2 under priority items by the city manager, city attorney, and city clerk. Those are my items this evening.
Thank you, City Manager. I will now turn to Assistant City Attorney Donald Toole for any priority items you may have.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. The City Attorney's Office has no priority items.
I would now like to recognize our City Clerk for any priority items that she may have.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I would like to request a priority item this evening by requesting a motion to accept the resignation of Councilmember Charlie Reece effective immediately.
And I
So
will,
moved.
I will entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Do it. Do it.
Second.
It has been moved by Councilwoman Freeman and seconded by Councilwoman
It's okay.
Johnson. We are now ready for the vote. If you would, please open the vote, Madam Clerk.
Madam,
If you would,
motion passes 7-0.
if you would please close the vote. Thank you, Madam Clerk. The ayes have it, and we reluctantly accept
Bye.
your resignation. Charlie Reece Day. You got it. Thank you so much. All right. We will now move to our second order of business, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of items that the council has previously considered in a work session. All items on the consent agenda may be approved by a single vote of the council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda by a council member or a member of the public, and those items will be considered separately at the end of the meeting tonight. I will now read the consent agenda into the record. Item number 1 is approval of city council minutes. Item number 2, FY 2021 to 2022 second quarter financial report. Item 3, adopt a resolution in support of the Declaration of Fundamental Reproductive Freedoms. Item number 4, boards, committees, commissions, and task forces 2021 calendar year attendance reports. Item 5, the expedited hearing request for zoning map change application Z2100037 East Gear Street Residential. Item number 7, the professional services contract award to Schnabel Engineering South, Professional Corporation for Little River Dam Embankment Settlement and Seepage Improvements. Item 8, January 2022 bid report. Item 9, 2022 Duke Doing Good Grant Project Ordinance. Item 10, Emergency Watershed Protection, EWP, Stream Bank Stabilization, EWP-2021-01, Amendment Number 1. Item 11, the Janitorial Services for Public Works Operations Facility. Item 12, Street and Infrastructure Acceptances. Item 18, appointment of finance officers. Now I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Williams and seconded by Councilwoman Caballero. Madam Clerk, if you would open the vote. If you would close the vote once it is posted.
The motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The ayes have it, and the consent agenda is approved unanimously. All right, we now will turn to our third order of business, which is our general business agenda. And we have item number 6 will be our first one for consideration, which is the interlocal agreement with GoTriangle for reimbursement of commuter rail related waterline adjustments. And we will recognize our resource person, Tom Devlin. Will it be Sean Egan tonight? And I believe Mr. Egan from our transportation department is here.
Good evening, Commission. I'm available for questions.
Good evening,
This is
Mr.
Sean
Egan.
Egan. I'm the Director of Transit tonight.
How are you this evening?
Very well, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Egan, I think you're coming in a little broken up, so we'll try it again. Let's see.
Maybe you should turn his video off.
You may have to turn your video off.
This is Sean Egan. I'm the Director of Transportation, City of Durham. I'm here to address any questions that Council has about this item.
Are there any questions from council about this item? Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's not really a question. It's essentially a statement, just acknowledging. I think we went through this at work session and acknowledging that the can't open the bridge is great that we're addressing that. I raised the concern, just knowing that we've had an issue around having transparency in the process with the commuter rail. And so I just want to make sure that I note that it's not a staff question. It's not a staff issue. The issue is with GoTriangle. And I just want to make sure that they're noting we would like to have a lot more transparency in the process. And tonight I will not be voting in support of it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or concerns from council? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I see nothing, absolutely nothing controversial about this particular interlocal agreement. I'm prepared to offer a motion if you're ready to entertain one.
Unless there are any other questions, I believe I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Move to pass.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has,
Pardon me, Madam Mayor. We have a speaker to the item.
all righty. That will be Ms. Jacqueline Wagstaff, if she is available.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem. I actually had the same concerns that Councilwoman Freeman had about this agreement with GoTriangle because they have not been transparent over the course of several years doing the, I guess we call it failed commuter rail. And just so that you would be aware of this, that because they have not been transparent, I would actually like to know what would that amount be that the reimbursement to the city is going to be? How much is that reimbursement, and what is the plans for the reimbursement once that happens with the city? But I too have concerns about anything that has to do with GoTriangle. when it comes to transparency, something that we haven't had over the years with them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Egan, if you could answer the question, the reimbursement.
The amount of the reimbursement is $39,000. That's one half of the $78,000 cost associated with relocating the Gregson Street water line.
Thank you.
Restating the motion.
Second.
Right. It has been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Middleton and seconded by Councilwoman Johnson. Madam Clerk, we are now ready if you would open the vote. And if you would please close the vote.
The motion passes 5-1 with Councilmember Freeman voting no.
All right, the ayes have it. And the motion passes 7-6-1, 5-1. Got to get my numbers right now. All right, we now turn to our next order of business, which is the general business agenda public hearing. And we have two this evening. First will be item 15, the Ellis Road PDR rezoning 2, which is a zoning map change. And our second one will be item 16, which is U, the letter U Tower, which is also a zoning map change. And I believe that we have speakers for both. We will start with item 15. Our resource person is Mr. Michael Stock.
Thank you very much. Michael Stock with the Planning Department. Before I begin, staff would like to note that all required public hearing notifications, oops, that went away, for the Planning Department items have been performed and are on file for review. Case Z200008 is a request to rezone 5 parcels totaling approximately 30 acres from commercial general with a development plan or CGD to planned development residential 18.220 or PDR 18.220. This site is currently part of an approved development plan approved back under case Z15007, which is attached in your agenda packet. The proposal would allow for a maximum of 519 apartments. The future land use map of the comprehensive plan currently designates these parcels as commercial, and if the zoning were approved, staff recommended flum change would be medium-high density residential. The plan proposes commitments that are detailed on the cover page of the proposed development plan, and they include open space, landscaping, building design, and architectural requirements. The Planning Commission recommended approval with a vote of 10-1 at its December 14th meeting, 2021, with the applicant proffering additional commitments that include 75% of lighting to be LED lighting, drip irrigation systems to use moisture sensors, stormwater control measures to be designed to accommodate the 100-year storm, and no parking between the street and buildings along 2/3 of the frontage north of Eunice Road. As a reminder, there are 2 actions requested tonight. The first is a motion regarding the approval of the requested zoning map change itself, and second, adoption of the appropriate statement of consistency. Thank you, and I believe the applicant is out there somewhere to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We now receive the staff report, and we will now I am now going to declare this public hearing open. And we do have several speakers, but first, are there any questions for staff from members of council? Seeing none, I have on my list of speakers, and I would also ask if there are any other speakers who would like to speak, if you would raise your virtual hand. But I have Mr. Jacob Hall. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes each. First, we will have Mr. Jacob Hall, Ms. Laura Holloman, Mr. Ryan Akers, and Mr. Eric Rifkin. Mr. Hall, you have the floor for 3 minutes, sir.
Hi, thank you. My name is Jacob Hall. I live on Talbot Place in the Ellis Crossing development, and I'm speaking in support of the Ellis Road PDR rezoning because I feel that rezoning will improve our community. My wife and I regularly enjoy walking and biking around the neighborhood, and we are looking forward to the public's commercial development and other developments in our area. Although we're excited about these commercial developments, we do have concerns about the additional traffic. So we're glad to see that the proposed PDR zoning projects a decrease in daily trips from the current zoning. The Ellis Crossing neighborhood has a variety of housing types, including the single-family homes, townhomes, which we live in, and existing apartments along Ellis Road. So it makes it a great location for additional multifamily housing to complement the proposed commercial development. In summary, I'm in support of the Ellis Road PDR rezoning, and I ask the City Council to approve this zoning map change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Ms. Holloman?
Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and other members of the City Council. I would like to defer my speaking to the project's attorney, Mr. Patrick Biker with Morningstar, and I represent the planning group, McAdams, and my address is 2905 Meridian Parkway, Durham, 27713. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holloman. Mr. Akers and Mr. Rifkin, you will each have 3 minutes if you'd like to speak at this time.
Good evening, Ms. Mayor and council members. This is Eric Rifkin at 56 Hunter Street in Apex, North Carolina. I would also like to give my time over to Patrick Biker at Morningstar Law Group, who will be presenting on our behalf.
Thank you so much. Mr. Akers.
Hey, Mayor and councilors, this is Ryan Akers, 2905 Meridian Parkway. I am also with Laura Holloman, with the applicant. I'm the engineer of record, so I'll defer to the attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Biker, you're free to speak, sir.
Good evening, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, wonderful. Sorry it took me a while to get logged on there. I don't know what the problem was, but I appreciate y'all's patience. Good evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and members of the City Council. I'm Patrick Biker with Morningstar Law Group, and I live at 2614 Stewart Drive. I'm here tonight representing Ellis Road WEHLP for this agenda item. Along with me tonight are the rest of our team that you've already heard from, Laura Holloman with McAdams, Ryan Akers also with McAdams, and Eric Rifkin, the Vice President for Ellis Crossing. This agenda item that's before you this evening represents the last 29-acre phase of a master plan development that consists of commercial, apartments, townhouses, and single-family homes within a relatively new 350-acre neighborhood in South Central Durham called Ellis Crossing. The apartments along Ellis Road are built and fully leased up. The commercial sites are ready to go with a site plan approved for a Publix and other restaurants and retail spaces, and other residential sections are approved and moving forward. The Ellis Crossing neighborhood today is providing quality housing that is for residents who are sometimes referred to as the missing middle. And what really makes Ellis Crossing important for Durham's growth, in addition to the overall neighborhood, is its central location with convenient commutes to downtown, Duke, and RTP. Since around 20 people move to Durham every day, it's imperative to keep our housing supply increasing, especially when it is workforce housing located near our core employment centers, so we are not locating new housing farther away. This agenda item checks all those boxes, and it's a positive development for Durham. Next, it is important to note that this 29-acre zoning map change from CG to PDR represents a downzoning when it comes to traffic. Our traffic engineers have submitted an analysis to the city's fine traffic staff, and that proves that AM peak hour traffic will decrease by 327 trips, and more importantly, afternoon peak hour traffic will decrease by 791 trips. In addition to this significant increase in traffic, it's important to note how much Ellis Crossing has spent on improvements to Ellis Road. If you go back about 7 or 8 years, Ellis Road was a 2-lane ditch section road in this part of Durham. Ellis Crossing has spent over $5 million to upgrade Ellis Road to a multi-lane facility with bike lanes, curb, gutter, and sidewalks. In fact, Ellis Crossing has built over 1 mile of bike lanes, and this makes biking and walking to job opportunities in the northern section of Research Triangle Park an alternative to driving. Along with the road improvements, Ellis Crossing spent about $1 million to extend the sewer line from the west side of the Durham Freeway to adjacent property on the east side of Ellis Crossing, which is another huge community benefit. Lastly, it was the traffic signal that Ellis Crossing funded that in turn made the Publix grocery store possible at this location. As a result, this will be a walkable, bikeable community with a neighborhood shopping center anchored by a Publix, so residents can walk or bike to the store for their shopping needs if they wish to do so. We respectfully ask for your approval of this rezoning tonight, and our team will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Attorney Biker. I will turn our attention to our clerk and to see if there were any other speakers who have raised their virtual hand. She's not in no.
Madam Mayor, there are no other speakers.
Thank you so much. I will now declare the public hearing to be closed, and the matter is back before the council. We have 2 motions.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening to the applicants, and thank the residents who spoke tonight. Mr. Biker, this may be for you. This proposal isn't particularly challenging or controversial for me. I think with what's already going on out there, I think this type of project is compatible with what's already in the area. I did note the staff's inclusion of language regarding affordable housing. That this project isn't being built as an affordable housing project, and median sale prices and rents were given to us in the staff documentation. But just for the record, is it fair to say this is a market, this is a development that will be priced at market? Is that fair? Not luxury, not affordable, just market?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, that's a fair statement, and certainly it's been very successful so far. We're very appreciative of the support that the City Council has given us in the past, and we certainly appreciate those concerns, and so we've done everything we can to make sure these apartments, townhomes, and single-family homes are priced where hopefully most people can afford them.
Well, sure, absolutely. And again, I plan on supporting. I don't see anything. I didn't see anything particularly controversial about this particular proposal. I did note the 10-to-1 vote from our planning commission, which is a statement in and of itself these days. So I won't say congratulations. I'll just say that's quite a feat. So I think that's all the questions I had, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions before consideration of our motions? All right, Councilwoman Williams. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Johnson.
Is that working now? Yep. Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to ask the applicant if they had considered proffers to our public schools and to our affordable housing fund.
Yes, Councilmember Johnson, can you hear me all right?
You're it's a little bit quiet, Patrick. If you could get maybe a little closer to your microphone or something. We can hear you, but it's a little bit hard.
Okay. Is that better?
That is a lot better. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, thank you for asking that question, Councilmember Johnson. We reviewed the staff report and would like to state on the record tonight that we will make a contribution of $50,000 based on well-established precedents, contribution of $50,000 to Durham Public Schools. And likewise, we would also make a contribution of $50,000 to the city's Affordable Housing Fund, have both of those be delivered prior to issuance of any certificate of occupancy for this zoning map change area, and be happy to wordsmith that with the planning department tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you for those proffers. We appreciate it.
Are there any other questions of council?
My thanks to Councilmember Johnson for that. The staff need to capture that. That won't affect our voting tonight, will it?
It has been captured.
Awesome. Get that money, Mike.
All right. If not, we will consider motion number 1 under item 15, Ellis Road PDR rezoning 2 zoning map change. The motion reads as follows. To adopt an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance by taking property out of the Commercial General with a Development Plan CGD district and establishing the same as Planned Development Residential 18.220 PDR 18.220 district. I am ready to entertain a motion.
Moved as read.
Okay.
All right, I believe Mayor Pro Tem Middleton has made the motion, seconded by Councilman Williams. Madam Clerk, if you would open the vote. If you would please close the vote.
The motion passes 6-0.
Thank you all. That motion has passed unanimously. We will now turn our consideration to motion number 2, which reads as follows: to adopt a consistency and reasonableness statement as required by North Carolina General Statute 160D-605. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
It has been moved by Councilwoman Freeman and seconded by Councilwoman Johnson. Madam Clerk, if you would open the vote. If you would please close the vote.
And the motion passes 6-0.
The ayes have it, and that motion passes unanimously. We now turn our attention to item 16, our second public hearing, which is U Tower zoning map changed. And I believe our resource person is again Mr. Stock.
Thank you. Yes, Michael Stock with the Planning Department again. Excuse me. Z20-00045 is a request to rezone approximately 1.5 acres located at 3007 Petty Road from office and institutional with a development plan, or OID, to office and institutional OI without a development plan. The site is currently under the approved development plan per PO 227, which limits the site to only office uses. The applicant has indicated a wish to establish a residential use as part of a larger project, which the OI zoning without a development plan would allow. However, it should be noted that no commitments can be made with this request, and any use allowed within the OI district would apply to this site, including any limitations on the use or other supplemental requirements per the ordinance. The future land use map of the comprehensive plan currently designates this parcel as design district, and if the zoning were approved, staff recommend that a plumb change would be to office. The Planning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 10-1 at its December 14th, 2021 meeting. And again, as a reminder, 2 actions are requested. The first regarding approval of the requested zoning map change, and second, the adoption of the appropriate statement of consistency. Thank you, and I believe the applicant is available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stark. We received your report. I'm now going to declare this public hearing open. First, are any questions for staff from members of council? We have one person to speak to this matter this evening, and also if there are others in the audience, if you would please raise your virtual hand. We have 3 minutes apiece. Attorney Patrick Biker will be speaking on behalf of the applicant.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can. You're a little low, but we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Good evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, members of the City Council. I'm Patrick Biker with Morningstar Law Group. I still live at 2614 Stewart Drive. I'm here tonight representing Vintage University Tower JV LLC for this agenda item, and I've been working with a longtime friend, Tyler Morris, as the applicant for this item. As was mentioned in the staff presentation, this item received a 10-to-1 recommendation for approval from the Planning Commission. And I want to note that this will be an infill project since our site plan will allow for 208 apartments at this location to the north and to the west of University Tower. In addition, this site has very convenient access to a bus stop for Go Durham Route 10, just about a quarter of a mile away with a sidewalk connection. I know you have a closed session following this item, and so given the strong support this case had from the Planning Commission with no citizen opposition, I don't want to take up any more of your time tonight. We respectfully ask for your approval. Thank you very much. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Biker. I don't think we have a closed hearing or closed session. I'm looking at Attorney O'Toole, and he's shaking his head. No.
No.
That I'm aware of.
Okay, sorry. I thought I saw that on the agenda. I apologize.
No problem. No problem. Were there any virtual speakers, Madam Clerk?
Madam Mayor, there are no virtual speakers this evening.
I will now declare the public hearing to be closed and the matter is back before the council. I do want to thank Councilwoman Freeman, who came and picked me up this morning and took me for a drive around both of these properties today. So thank you for that. That was my first kind of time, what do they call it, lightly trespassing. So we had a great time this morning. Thank you, Councilwoman Freeman, for that. Are there any other questions before consideration of the motions?
Just a note that I'll be sure to bring the drone next time.
Say that again.
Just a note that I'll be sure to bring a drone next time.
Okay. All right, seeing no questions, we will now entertain motion number 1, which I will read as follows. To adopt an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance by taking property out of the office and institutional with a development plan, OID district, and establishing the same as office and institutional OI district.
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, it has been moved by Councilwoman Freeman and seconded by Councilwoman Caballero. Madam Clerk, if you will open the vote. And if you will close the vote.
The motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, ma'am. That motion has passed unanimously. And we will now turn our consideration to motion number 2, which is to adopt a consistency and reasonableness statement as required by North Carolina General Statute 160D-605. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilwoman Freeman, seconded by Councilman Williams. Madam Clerk, if you will open the vote. If you will close the vote, please.
And the motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. We will now turn our attention back to our next agenda item, which will be other matters. And I would like to ask our Mayor Pro Tem if he would be recognized to give us some updates on the process for the selection of a replacement for Councilman Reece.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, colleagues. I think we're going to get out in good time tonight, so I won't be long. This was a very full, emotional, and substantive evening. The sad news is that, of course, we have a tremendous colleague that has just left this chamber for the last time as an official member of this body. The happy news, the good news, is that we live in a city that is full of incredibly gifted and committed individuals who will give us a great reservoir to draw from to fill a seat. The other good news is that we've been down this road before, So we have a really, really excellent template in place to help us. The moment, Madam Mayor, we voted to accept Councilmember Reese's resignation, the clock began, the 60-day clock statutorily prescribed to us and by our charter to fill his seat by selection or an election would happen if we don't fill it in those 60 days. On tomorrow morning, per your directive, Madam Mayor, to assume leadership of our Procedures Committee, tomorrow morning I'll be meeting with Councilor O'Toole and Councilmember Johnson and City Clerk, Madam Clerk Schreiber, to talk about our timetable. I'm going to ask our colleagues that at Thursday's work session, subsequent to our meeting tomorrow, that I would be allowed, depending upon how the conversation goes tomorrow, which I think it'll go fine, to bring an additional matter, supplemental matter on Thursday to talk about the outlines of a proposed timetable. It will, in short, if we do what we've done, look like this. We will have a period of accepting applications. The council will receive those applications. Each council member will receive that packet. We will whittle that number down to a number that we will invite in for interviews. There will be a period of interviews which will be public. There will be an opportunity for public commentary to be made. Council members will then have an opportunity to give their take on the matters that occurred before them and let us know who they're going to vote for. And hopefully by the end of this process, we'll get that number down to 1, and then we will vote on that new colleague, and that colleague will be sworn in almost immediately after our vote and assume the at-large seat vacated by Councilmember Reece. So that's the state of play now. We've got an excellent template in place. I want to assure the people of our city that are watching tonight that we will avail ourselves of the excellent work we've done in this position before when we've been here, and that we will choose a person that loves this city just as much as Councilmember Reece did, and will be just as thorough and committed and engaged in the work. That's it on that, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the meeting tomorrow and reporting back to the full council at Thursday's work session.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Are there any other matters to come before the Durham City Council this evening? Seeing none, we will now adjourn the City Council meeting on this March 7, 2022, Bull City Strong at 8:36. Y'all be blessed and have a great evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, colleagues.
Thanks, everybody. Great job.
See y'all Thursday.
See y'all Thursday.
Okay.
We'll be right here, right?
Yes, we don't, yeah, we don't have, yes, we don't.